The wind had a lonely whistle that morning, carrying the scent of dust and sagebrush across the empty plains. For years, Thomas Greer had lived with that sound, the sound of nothing. His ranch stretched far and wide, a patch of stubborn land fenced with sweat and grief. The sun rose and fell over his solitude like clockwork, and every day felt the same. Feed the cattle, fix the fence, sleep beneath the endless silence. Thomas wasn't always alone. Once he had a wife, Mary, a kind, bright woman with laughter that could soften even the hardest man. But the fever took her one winter, leaving behind an ache that never healed. He buried her behind the barn with a wooden cross, and after that, the man stopped talking to the world. For years, the ranch echoed only with the creak of his boots and the howl of wind, until one scorching morning, everything changed. He was mending a fence when he saw them. 6 figures staggering through the heat shimmer, coming from the horizon like ghosts. He blinked, thinking the sun had tricked him. Travelers didn't come this way anymore. The land was too dry, too cruel, but they kept coming. Slow, unsteady. When they drew close, Thomas saw they were women, 6 of them. Dusty, barefoot, exhausted beyond measure, their dresses torn, hair tangled, faces sunburnt and frightened. He gripped the gatepost, unsure if he should reach for his rifle or a water bucket. But when the tallest woman lifted her cracked lips and whispered, "Please." Water. The choice was easy. He led them to the trough without a word. They knelt, 6 beautiful strangers on his land, and drank like souls who had escaped death itself. Thomas watched in silence. They were beautiful, yes, but not in the polished way of town girls. Their beauty was raw, wild, and marked with struggle. After they drank, the tall woman looked up at him with wary green eyes. "Thank you," she said softly. "We've been running for days." "Running?" he asked. "From what?" Her voice trembled. "Men, bad ones." Thomas's gut tightened. Outlaws roamed these plains, men without law or mercy. He'd heard stories, dark ones. "You can rest in the barn," he said finally. "Ain't much, but it's shade." They nodded, moving slowly, leaning on one another. He noticed bruises, torn hems, fear still clinging to their eyes. The youngest couldn't have been older than 16. That night, Thomas brought them bread and milk. The barn glowed warm in the lamplight. They huddled together, whispering softly as though afraid to trust the quiet. One of them, a calm auburn-haired woman with blue eyes, asked, "Why are you alone, mister?" He chuckled without humor. "Guess the land suits me better than people." She smiled faintly. "Then maybe we'll change that." Her words stayed in his mind long after he left them. But something about their silence unsettled him. They watched the horizon too often, like they were waiting for something, or someone. Before dawn, Thomas woke to a strange noise, boots crunching on gravel. He grabbed his rifle and stepped outside. The sky was deep blue, holding its breath before sunrise. Down by the barn, one of the women stood alone, staring east. Her hair whipped in the wind like smoke. "You shouldn't be out here," he said. She turned slowly. Her voice was barely a whisper. "They're coming." "Who's coming?" "The men we ran from." Thomas looked toward the ridge. Dust clouds, horsemen, 6 or 7 of them, closing fast. He swore under his breath and ran to the barn. The women were awake now, panic in their eyes. "If you stay," he said firmly, "you stay behind me. Nobody touches what's mine, not this land, not my guests." The women nodded, trembling. Thomas checked his rifle, took a deep breath, and stepped out into the sunrise. The riders approached, 6 men, rifles slung, bandanas over their faces. They stopped at the fence, horses snorting steam into the cold air. The leader, with tall, scarred eyes like a wolf, called out, "Mornin', old man. You've got something that belongs to us." Thomas didn't move. "Don't reckon I do. Only thing here is mine, cattle, fences, and peace." The outlaw smirked. "You see 6 girls pass through here? We've been tracking them for days. They ran off with something valuable." Thomas's jaw tightened. "They look half dead to me." The smirk vanished. "Step aside, rancher. You don't want to die for strangers." Thomas raised his rifle. "Son, I already died once when I buried my wife. Ain't much left to lose." For a moment there was silence. Then fire exploded. The first shot cracked like thunder. The outlaw's hat flew off as his horse reared back. The others drew their guns, bullets slicing through fence posts and kicking dust into the air. Thomas dove behind the gate, returning fire with calm precision. Every shot found its mark. He moved like a man who'd been born for this moment. "Stay down," he shouted toward the barn. A bullet grazed his shoulder, spinning him around, but he steadied himself, firing again, and another man fell. Then from behind him he heard the unmistakable click of a revolver. He turned, and it was the auburn-haired woman. She stood beside him, eyes burning with resolve. "Give me your spare rounds," she said. Thomas tossed her a handful. "You know how to use that thing?" "Learned from my pa before they killed him," she said flatly. She took position beside him, and together they fired, 2 against 6. The sound echoed across the valley, each shot carving a new piece of legend into the dust. When it was over, the last outlaw fled into the hills, his horse kicking up a lonely trail of dust. The valley fell silent again. Only the windmill creaked, turning slow in the dawn light. Thomas dropped his rifle, blood soaking through his shirt. The youngest girl ran to him, crying, "You're hurt." "Just a scratch," he said with a grin, though his arm throbbed like fire. The auburn-haired woman lowered her revolver. "You didn't have to do this." "I know," he said. "But if there's one thing a man learns livin', out here he's only worth something. If he stands for someone who can't." The women exchanged glances. Then, one by one, they knelt before him, heads bowed. "What are you doing?" Thomas asked, startled. The auburn-haired woman met his gaze. "You gave us back our lives. Where we come from, that makes you more than a savior. You're family now, family." The word hit him harder than any bullet. For years, Thomas Greer had lived in silence, convincing himself he didn't need anyone. But now, staring at 6 broken yet unyielding souls, he realized his heart wasn't dead, just waiting. He helped them up. "Ain't no need for kneeling. You can stay as long as you need. But you work, eat, and rest same as me. This ranch ain't built for weakness." They smiled, tired but alive. Over the weeks that followed, laughter returned to the ranch. The women helped fix fences, feed livestock, and patch the roof. Thomas taught them to ride, to shoot, and to live with the land. In return, they filled his empty house with warmth, cooking, singing softly by the fire, telling stories that stitched the nights back together. One evening, as the sun bled into the horizon, Thomas stood beside the auburn-haired woman, Clara as he'd learned. "What'll you do now?" she asked. He looked at the horizon, the sky burning gold. "Guess I'll keep living. Maybe this ranch wasn't meant to be empty after all. Maybe it was waiting for us." For the first time in years, Thomas laughed, a deep, warm sound that seemed to wake the land itself. The wind carried it across the plains, soft and free. That night, under a sky full of stars, the lonely rancher who once lived in silence finally found what he'd been missing. Not just peace, but family. Soft music fades out, echo of wind and faint laughter. If this story touched your heart, my friend, hit that like button, drop a comment about your favorite moment, and don't forget to subscribe for more powerful Western stories of courage, redemption, and second chances.